Hi, I'm Jim Roberts. I'm sitting here with Ben Smith, editor-in-chief of BuzzFeed. Here we are again, another night of unscripted. This is the unscripted portion of our show. I hope to have a little fun. Okay, we'll have a little bit of fun, but the first thing, I do want to script a couple of things. So, earlier today, Ben and I both shot out a tweet to some of our followers asking for 6 words to describe Paul Ryan, who'll be speaking shortly. I'll say to the audience again, if you have 6 words, you want to tweet it to BuzzFeed Ben or NYT Jim, now's your chance to do it. Before we get back to some of their answers, though, I wanted to talk to you, Ben, about a couple of the headlines that we saw today. I think, there are a lot of things to talk about, but the first thing I'm very curious about is the news actually that Obama made today, a little bit of counter-programming on another social media platform, Reddit.
Yeah, he did an AMA, an Ask Me Anything on Reddit, which is it's a huge platform. I mean, like, we see it in our traffic, you probably see it in your traffic.
We do, yeah.
I mean, it just drives, like, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people will come to a story from Reddit. Millions of people are on there, and we've done some analysis, it's really growing all the time. So Obama went on there. The funny thing is, he went on there and he answered questions, and he gave pretty boring answers. He, like 80% of the questions were about marijuana, and he did not really engage with those. He answered, he talked about the space program.
Right.
He talked about internet freedom. He kept it pretty vague. He didn't really make a lot of news, but he kind of treated it like a constituency group, like a community, and he clearly was prepared. Reddit has been asking for the folks on Reddit have been asking for, in fact, filing Freedom of Information law requests for the secret White House beer recipe.
Okay.
And he made the main news he made on this Reddit thing is that the beer recipe will be out soon. His FOIL requests do not apply to the White House, but I guess he's voluntarily releasing it. And he also referenced the not bad meme, which is this like face that this sort of mug that he has put on at times that kind of went viral and has become kind of a Reddit thing of kind of limited approval, reflects sort of limited approval. And so he said that. He said that what he thinks about the Reddit experience is that it's not bad, kind of a play on his own his own internet persona.
Now, he did talk about a couple of substantive subjects. I saw a couple of headlines regarding campaign finance, the Citizen United case, saying that he thought that a constitutional amendment might be called for to deal with that. I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is,
the space exploration question was not surprising from the a more nerdy community like Reddit,
I mean,
right?
it was not a bad question at all.
Right.
I mean, he was not like on there acting like a Redditor. He was on there acting like the President of the United States.
Although there were a few grammatical errors that he seemed to introduce into his responses.
There were some typos.
Some typos, and then people jumped on it, right?
And they fixed them, yeah.
But
he also verified himself, with a little kind of raw cell phone photo of himself in the White House.
Yeah, Reddit has, I think, established, gotten, a little bit more traction amongst, maybe the mainstream the last few weeks, months. The shooting in Aurora certainly brought them a lot of attention. Obviously, this thing will too, and it's very interesting today. I read that the servers were crashing as a result of all the traffic coming in.
He crashed Reddit, which is pretty impressive. I mean, but it is. I mean, it's a funny world. I mean, it's the President of the United States really like 1 or 2 clicks away from all kinds of pornography. From all kinds. I mean, from stuff that much less than the New York Times. Some stuff that might not make it onto BuzzFeed in this very raw community. Right after the Aurora shootings, there were folks on Reddit posting pictures of their open, gaping bullet wounds, right onto these threads.
Let me move on to just some of the other headlines that that we've been paying attention to today. In fact, maybe this one will kick it ahead a little bit to tomorrow and to Romney's acceptance speech. Both BuzzFeed and the New York Times have stories running. I think yours is already published. Ours is about to be about Romney and his own Mormonism.
Yeah.
Your reporter, McKay Coppins, had a really interesting story about that today.
Yeah, right? I mean, what's really interesting is that Romney, there was the experience of 2007 was really pretty awful for his family. It was like I think at some point people wouldn't shake his wife's hand in Iowa because they didn't want to touch a Mormon, or at least this is the experience as filtered through their kids' friends to McKay. And so I think, this cycle, the kind of lesson had been, we're just not going to engage it. We're not going to touch it.
Right.
Duck
and cover,
answer.
I think, is how he referred to it. Yeah.
And I think that has changed in the last couple of weeks. They made a decision that they need, as part of this campaign, to tell people who he is, to talk about it openly. Ann Romney last night, I think, used the word Mormon for the first time anybody on the campaign has spoken that word this year.
I also noticed that our reporter Jody Cantor who is also working on this similar story, said that she had been talking to quite a few Mormons who were really wanting him to actually say something and to sort of affirm his faith and just really be open about it.
I think Mormons, I mean, it's an evangelical faith, of intensely, incredibly effectively evangelical faith. This is not like a hide your light under the bushel kind of faith.
Right. I have a feeling we'll probably be talking about this again tomorrow, and so will a lot of other people. Any other headlines today that caught your eye? Things that were moving to social media?
I mean, I think the war between the old and new media, and I think the way in which old institutions react to social media was really on display today when an editor at Yahoo was caught on a live stream saying what he said and what sounds to me like it was like a really dumb joke.
Right. Which he's apologized for.
Which he has apologized for, but Yahoo fired him like that, like a respected, skilled guy who'd been building their political unit. I mean, I think people were attacking them on Twitter. So, I mean, it was remarkable how fast they moved.
Yeah. There was also another story involving the media that sort of transpired overnight. I guess a couple of delegates, or maybe they were alternate delegates, were tossed out.
Were allegedly or reportedly throwing peanuts and saying potentially racist things to a CNN cameraman, but turn the camera on. There's the one thing in this whole building that was not filmed. It's so weird, and as CNN,
and so we know CNN actually very little about it. Yeah.
And because the convention was just we threw them out, they're terrible. There's nobody's contesting it. We don't have their names, so nobody's confirming or denying it. And shockingly, there's no footage. If you're a cameraman, I mean, please, if any cameraman here ever has anybody screaming racist taunts at them, please turn on the camera. I think that was the lesson of that.
So let's turn to tonight. I got one question. We saw John McCain back on the stage. Did you see any reaction to his speech?
I mean, I think Republicans maybe like him better now than they did in 08.
That always is the case, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, in a weird way, he's got this real edge to his critiques of Obama's national security policy that's very clear now. That particularly he's just very upset about leaks, and the crowd went with that.
They like that, yeah.
Yep.
How do you feel about his? I mean, I don't know that there's a great affection that McCain has felt for Romney over the years. I'm not sure. I saw a lot of it.
No, vote for my friend Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
I mean, he did not. It was not his most passionate line.
Yeah, you didn't feel that. Okay, so Paul Ryan. He's actually been somewhat of a figure of fascination in social media. You and I did a segment, I don't know, a few weeks ago. We talked about some of the memes that were floating around him, much of them having to do with his appearance. So anyway, let's, before we turn to what our readers were saying, how do you sort of feel like the view of him has been shaped in social media?
I mean, one thing that I think is that he's still not an incredibly well-known American brand. I mean, I do think Americans are not in massive numbers following this stuff and diving in quite yet. So I think Medicare, ultra-conservative on Medicare is one thing, kind of hot for a politician is clearly another, young for a politician, but I still think this stuff is very much being kind of fought out and formed. There was I do think in terms of kind of penetrating the pop culture, his physical fitness seems to be the thing that's gotten to, and a shockingly high percentage of these tweets, I'm just looking at some of them on the screen now, are about his physical appearance. We've got undeniably easy on the eyes. Bad man, nice to look at, seems to be the liberal view.
Right.
So
But you don't get a sense that they feel like they have a firm take on.
That is literally very superficial.
Right. They know him as a conservative. They know him as very much of a fiscal conservative.
I think conservatives. Here's Larry Kelly, attacks me on Twitter a lot. God bless him. Is smarter than Biden even when drunk. And I do think that's kind of for conservatives. They think they know him. They like how smart he is.
Yeah. All right. Well, while you're looking at your screen, I am going to just read through a few of these that have been handed to me. Okay. My favorite is by somebody who calls himself Action Jackson.
All right.
And I don't know how he got all of these characters in a tweet, but he got a lot. 6 words: energetic, compelling, conservative, persuasive, passionate, and personable. Certainly someone who likes him. But again, a lot of physical characteristics. We put together a bunch of these, and listen, if you're having trouble hearing me, it's only because there's a very loud band in the background.
There.
Okay, so we heard about slender, hairline, abtastic.
Abtastic.
Okay.
This is like literally superficial.
Really, wingman.
That's what the word means.
Fitness.
Wingman.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that. I'm not sure. Well, Romney's wingman, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Someone said he wears his clothes too big.
Well, this was a big topic. I think BuzzFeed broke this important story, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're that tall and fit, and you buy like domestic clothes at like a pair of retail, according to Amy Odell, our fashion writer, and then I think you guys also had a piece. It's very,
I think we did, yeah.
Very hard to find clothes that fit. But he has this very style, and spokesman Michael Steele, who tells me he's kind of working on that, and actually he's been wearing these very tight shirts he pops
That's
out of lately.
interesting. Yeah. Well, here's one that seems to counter the superficiality.
Yep.
Someone named Don tweeted, "There's more than meets the eye." Okay, and
Kinda
that's 6 words. That works out. James Pindell offered only one word, and that was intense, which I guess could be read either way, but probably is a pretty good one.
For sure.
Got any others?
You know, I think certainly a lot of attacks on him from liberals. You know, the cheap sellout with pernicious self-delusions. I mean, any 6 negative words you can find. And I mean, that's one of the things about politics, right, in America right now, is that anybody who's like put on the stage that way immediately becomes this intensely polarizing figure.
Right.
40% of the country is going to hate them. And there's no way around that.
Yeah. Well, that actually brings me to maybe this will be the last thing we talk about. We touched on this a little bit last night when we were together. It's just the degree to which Twitter, in particular, is dominated. I know a lot of people feel like it is dominated by liberals or people who are more to the left of the political spectrum, but I don't know that you believe that.
Numerically, that may be true, but there's this like small and vocal cadre of folks who are organized to some degree around Breitbart and Andrew Breitbart's kind of legacy. But I think for him, it was often a kind of high concept joke, and they were like not in on the joke at all. But who just are kind of working the media and attacking reporters all the time. And I do think like reporters sometimes get really kind of freaked out by that and have a sense that that's a really like vast and important group.
You know, I also know that if you talk to the folks at Twitter, they will insist, right? They will insist that their users are really split down the middle. And I know that they will also talk that a lot of people on the right, a lot of religious conservatives, really like to use Twitter. They communicate within their churches, and it's become a very powerful medium for them as well.
I think it's one of these things that like gets very popular in subcultures, right? Like reporters are all over it. Yeah. There's certain like African American kids in cities like are huge Twitter users. Not talking about politics at all necessarily, but it's one of those things that like it's sort of siloed and it's kind of can become very narrow.
Right.
And very,
So if you're in that silo, that's pretty much what you're going to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think I hear behind me Tim Pawlenty has taken the stage. Big draw.
God,
we're going to have to watch this.
Cut this thing off.
We will cut this thing off. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. Take a look at what's going on behind us. I want to thank Ben. We're going to do this again, I hope, tomorrow.
Always a pleasure,
and enjoy. Thanks a lot, everybody.